It was a quiet afternoon in a small town by the river, where the air carried the soft scent of damp earth and the occasional hint of wildflowers growing along the riverbank. The sun was low in the sky, casting golden reflections on the rippling water. People moved slowly through the streets, some heading home from work, others taking a gentle walk to enjoy the evening calm. Among them was a young volunteer named Alex, someone known in the town for always being ready to help others. Whether at the local shelter or in small acts of kindness that often went unnoticed, Alex enjoyed these walks by the river, finding a kind of peace in the rhythm of nature and the occasional chatter of birds. On this particular day, the tranquility was broken by a sudden, unexpected commotion. From the path along the riverbank, Alex noticed a figure struggling in the water. At first, it seemed like a small slip or someone losing their balance. But the figure was being carried further into the current with alarming speed. Without thinking, Alex ran toward the edge, heart pounding, eyes locked on the person fighting the water. The river, usually calm, had swelled slightly from recent rains, and the current was stronger than usual, tugging dangerously at anything that came into contact with it. The figure in the water. A young woman flailed her arms, trying to stay afloat. Her panicked movements told Alex she could not manage the river alone. Adrenaline surged, and there was no time to hesitate. Alex dove in, plunging into the cold, rushing water. The first impact took the breath away. The current immediately began to push against every stroke, but determination overpowered fear. The young woman's eyes met Alex's for a brief moment, wide, terrified, but also clinging to hope, and that silent connection strengthened the resolve to reach her. The water was relentless, pulling at them both, but Alex focused on one thing: getting her to safety. Arms extended, swimming with all the energy and strength available, Alex finally reached her. Grasping her hand firmly, he instructed her to remain calm and follow his lead. Panic made her movements erratic at first, but the firmness in Alex's voice seemed to anchor her. Slowly, stroke by stroke, they made their way toward the shallower part of the river. Every second felt like an eternity, but finally, with a last effort, Alex managed to drag her onto the muddy bank. Both were soaked, breathing heavily, hearts racing, but alive and safe. They lay there for a moment, catching their breath, the tension slowly giving way to relief. The young woman's hair clung to her face, and her clothes were drenched, but she smiled weakly, grateful beyond words. Alex offered a hand, helping her to her feet, and they both laughed softly, the laughter shaky but filled with release. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Alex simply shook his head, brushing wet hair from his face. "It's nothing," he said, though he felt a swell of pride and relief that he could help, as they walked away from the riverbank. Alex noticed that the woman's hands were shaking, not just from the cold water, but from the lingering adrenaline. He guided her toward a nearby bench under the shade of a tall tree, where the fading sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patches of warmth. They sat there in silence for a few minutes, allowing their hearts to calm. The river gurgled softly behind them, a reminder of how fragile moments can be and how quickly life can change. Alex broke the silence with a gentle question, wanting to ease her nerves. "Are you okay now?" She nodded, taking a deep breath. "I think so. I don't even know what I was thinking, getting so close to the edge. I should have been more careful." Her voice carried both shame and relief. Alex smiled reassuringly. "Sometimes accidents happen to the best of us. The important thing is that you're safe now." As they continued to talk, they learned each other's names. There was an awkwardness in the introductions, natural after such a sudden, intense event. But it slowly melted into conversation. She shared a little about why she had been walking along the river that afternoon, a quiet moment she had needed, a way to clear her mind after a stressful week. Alex listened attentively, asking questions and offering small words of encouragement. Sensing that she was still shaken but also beginning to relax in the presence of someone who had just risked himself to save her. Minutes passed, and the initial shock began to fade. They laughed at the absurdity of the situation, how the day had turned from ordinary to life-changing in a single moment. Alex helped her wring out her sleeves and offered his jacket, which he hesitated to take, but eventually accepted, grateful for the warmth and the comfort of human kindness. There was an unspoken bond forming, born from shared vulnerability and the raw intensity of survival. Neither of them fully realized it yet, but this encounter was not going to be a simple story of rescue. It was the beginning of something deeper. As they finally stood to leave, Alex offered to escort her home, a gesture of continued care and concern. She accepted, and they walked side by side along the quiet streets, their conversation flowing naturally, touching on everyday topics, hobbies, and small personal details. The fear of the river had given way to a cautious comfort, a sense that even in the chaos of unexpected events, there could be moments of connection and understanding by the time they reached her home. The sun had set completely, leaving the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. She turned to Alex with a smile, more genuine now, more relaxed. "Thank you again," she said, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and a spark of curiosity. As if wondering about the person who had so effortlessly become a hero in her story, Alex smiled back, feeling a strange mix of humility and warmth. "Take care," he said simply, "and be more careful next time." They exchanged a few more words before parting ways, each carrying with them the memory of the afternoon, forever marked by the sudden turn of events that had brought them together. Walking back along the quiet streets, Alex reflected on how unpredictable life could be, how a routine walk could lead to a life-changing encounter. There was a sense of excitement, a quiet thrill at the thought of meeting someone under such extraordinary circumstances. Meanwhile, she entered her home, feeling a mix of relief, gratitude, and a curiosity she could not quite explain. Thinking about the person who had appeared so suddenly and made such a difference that evening. As the town settled into its usual calm and the river flowed silently under the moonlight, two lives had intersected in a way neither could have anticipated. The rescue had ended safely, but it had also planted the first seed of a connection that promised to grow. Nurtured by shared experience, empathy, and an unspoken understanding. And in that quiet, ordinary town, two strangers had unknowingly begun the first chapter of a story that would forever change them both. After the day by the river, life slowly returned to normal. But both Alex and the young woman found that the memory of that afternoon lingered longer than they expected. It wasn't just the shock of the accident that stayed with them, but the strange sense of connection that had formed in those intense moments. Alex, who usually kept a careful distance in relationships, found himself thinking about her more than he wanted to admit. He recalled the relief in her eyes, the way her hands trembled, and the quiet strength she showed once she had caught her breath. Every detail seemed vivid in his mind. A small smile would appear whenever he remembered the laughter they had shared while sitting on the riverbank. Meanwhile, she found herself replaying the moments repeatedly in her head. She thought about the courage it took for him to dive into the rushing river without hesitation. She thought about the warmth of his jacket, the calmness in his voice, and the way he had simply stayed by her side until she felt safe. It wasn't just gratitude that she felt. There was something more, something that pulled at her curiosity and made her want to know him beyond that one fleeting encounter. A few days later, she decided to reach out, sending a simple message thanking him again and mentioning that she had made it home safely after their meeting. Alex, surprised but pleased, responded quickly, assuring her that he was glad she was all right. That small exchange sparked a conversation that moved slowly at first, but naturally began to deepen. They talked about everyday things, the weather, the town, little details of their routines. Each message was simple, but it carried an unspoken desire to continue talking. To keep the connection alive, eventually she suggested meeting again, casually and without pressure, just to chat over coffee. Alex agreed, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. When they finally met at a quiet cafe a few streets from the river, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. The cafe smelled faintly of fresh pastries and coffee, a comforting combination that seemed to calm the lingering tension from their last encounter. They found a corner table by the window, where soft sunlight streamed in and cast a gentle glow over the worn wooden surfaces. Their first meeting was full of polite questions, small smiles, and shy laughter. She shared why she had gone to the river that afternoon not because she wanted adventure, but because she needed a moment alone to think and process the stress of her week. Alex listened carefully, nodding and asking questions that showed he genuinely cared. There was no judgment, only understanding, and that simple acceptance created an unexpected comfort. For both of them, it was a rare moment of being truly seen by another person. As the conversation continued, they found themselves moving beyond polite exchanges. She mentioned her love for small hobbies, things she rarely shared with anyone, and Alex did the same. They talked about books, movies, and simple joys like walking through the town's little market or watching the sunset by the river. These seemingly ordinary topics became a way to connect, to share a sense of themselves that had been hidden from most people. Each story and laugh built a bridge. They both felt a growing curiosity and admiration for each other. After that meeting, they began to see each other more frequently. Sometimes it was planned, sometimes spontaneous, like running into each other at the local park or volunteering at the town's small community events. Every interaction deepened the bond that had begun on the riverbank. There was a growing trust, a shared sense that they could be open and honest without fear of judgment. Alex admired her resilience and the way she found light even in difficult situations, while she admired his quiet bravery and the way he seemed to care without expecting anything in return. Their friendship soon included small acts of thoughtfulness that made everyday moments feel special. Alex would remember little details she mentioned. It's like her favorite pastry at the cafe, or the way she liked her tea, and would surprise her with them. She, in turn, began to notice and appreciate his small gestures, like the way he would check if she had made it home safely, or how he remembered the stories she shared about her family. These gestures were simple, but they built a foundation of warmth and reliability, and both felt their hearts respond without even realizing it. One evening, as they walked through the quiet streets after a community event, the conversation turned more personal. She spoke about moments of struggle she had faced in the past, times when she felt alone or unsure. Alex listened, his presence steady and reassuring. He didn't offer empty platitudes or try to fix her problems. He simply listened, validating her feelings and sharing gentle encouragement. The honesty of the exchange made them both feel closer, and for the first time, they sensed that their relationship was more than just friendship. It was rooted in real care and understanding, being there for each other when it mattered most. As weeks passed, their bond continued to grow naturally. They shared meals, took walks along the river, and spent time volunteering together. They laughed together, supported each other, and sometimes just sat in silence, comfortable in the presence of someone who had become unexpectedly important. There were small moments that made their connection undeniable, a hand brushing against the other's, a lingering look or a shared smile that said more than words could convey. Neither of them rushed to define it, but both felt the subtle pull towards something deeper at the heart of it. The relationship that began with a rescue was slowly transforming into a profound connection. They discovered that shared experiences, kindness, and vulnerability could create a bond stronger than any ordinary meeting. Each day, as they spent time together, they learned more about each other's strengths, fears, and hopes. The trust they had built allowed them to share parts of themselves they had not shown to anyone else, even in quiet moments. The memory of the river lingered. It was a reminder of how quickly life could change, how fragile and precious human connections were, and how one act of courage could ripple into something far greater than anyone could anticipate. Both carried that memory in their hearts, knowing it had brought them together in a way that was extraordinary, yet grounded in real life. The rescue was no longer just an event. It was the beginning of a friendship that was quietly, steadily growing into something much more meaningful as the days turned into weeks. Alex and the young woman found themselves spending more time together, not out of obligation, but because being in each other's company had become a source of comfort and joy. Their friendship was no longer just about the river or the rescue. It had grown into a connection rooted in understanding, trust, and subtle affection. They discovered that sharing ordinary moments could be as meaningful as extraordinary ones, and each encounter deepened the bond they were building. One weekend, Alex suggested a visit to the town's local market, a lively place where vendors sold fresh produce, handmade crafts, and simple street food. The market was bustling with people, the air filled with chatter, laughter, and the scent of baked goods. The young woman smiled at the sight, enjoying the energy and colors around her. Alex, ever attentive, pointed out interesting items and encouraged her to try small delicacies she had never tasted before. They wandered through the stalls, sampling fruits, bread, and pastries, and their conversation flowed effortlessly, full of playful teasing and genuine curiosity about each other's tastes and preferences. At one point, they paused near a small fountain in the center of the market. The sunlight danced on the water, creating patterns that shimmered on the pavement. They sat on the edge of the fountain, sharing stories of their childhood, family traditions, and memories that had shaped who they were. Each revelation brought them closer, not through grand gestures or dramatic events, but through the quiet intimacy of being heard and understood. There was a sense of ease between them, a comfort that made them feel safe and valued in a way they hadn't experienced with many others. Their shared time also included volunteering, which had always been important to Alex. Together, they helped organize events for the town's small community center, assisting with meal preparations, cleaning, and setting up spaces for children and elderly residents. The young woman discovered that she enjoyed this work more than she expected, not just for the satisfaction of helping others, but because it allowed her to see Alex in a different light, steady, reliable, and quietly encouraging. She admired his dedication and the way he could inspire those around him without demanding attention or praise. One afternoon, while organizing a small fundraiser, they faced an unexpected challenge. A shipment of supplies had been delayed, and the event seemed at risk of falling apart. Rather than panic, Alex calmly devised a plan, dividing tasks and rallying volunteers to cover the missing items. The young woman watched him work, impressed by his ability to stay composed under pressure. She offered her help, and together they managed to salvage the situation, turning potential disaster into a success. Their shared effort strengthened their connection, proving that they could rely on each other in times of stress, as well as in moments of joy. As their friendship deepened, subtle signs of attraction began to surface. A lingering touch on the arm while laughing at a joke, a glance that lasted a little too long, or a smile that seemed to hold more than casual warmth. Both noticed these moments but did not rush to define them, allowing the feelings to grow naturally. They cherished the comfort of each other's presence, the ease of shared silence, and the security of mutual understanding. There were evenings when they simply sat by the river, watching the water flow quietly and listening to the sounds of the town settling down for the night. These moments, though calm and uneventful, were some of the most meaningful. They talked about dreams and fears, hopes for the future, and the small victories and challenges of daily life. The young woman shared her concerns about career choices, personal growth, and the uncertainty of life's path. Alex listened with patience and empathy, offering guidance without imposing his own opinions, allowing her to feel empowered and supported. One particularly memorable evening, they found a quiet spot on a grassy hill overlooking the river. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water, and the town below looked peaceful and small. They shared a thermos of tea, wrapped in blankets to ward off the chill, and talked about everything and nothing at the same time. Laughter came easily, mingled with thoughtful pauses and comfortable silences. In that moment, it was clear that their bond had become more than friendship. It was a connection that nourished their hearts, a source of stability and joy in a world that often felt unpredictable. As the days passed, they began to share personal milestones and small victories with each other. The young woman celebrated a success at work, and Alex was there with a heartfelt congratulations and an encouraging smile. Alex, in turn, shared a personal accomplishment, and she responded with genuine pride and admiration. These moments reinforced the depth of their connection, showing that they genuinely cared for each other's happiness and well-being. There were also times of vulnerability. The young woman admitted to moments of self-doubt and fear, worries about the future, and her ability to handle challenges. Alex shared his own insecurities, revealing that even those who seemed brave and composed sometimes struggled with uncertainty. These honest conversations created a foundation of trust, a sense that they could be open with each other without fear of judgment. It was in these moments of shared vulnerability that their bond grew strongest, proving that true connection was built not only on joy and laughter, but also on understanding and support during difficult times. As they spent more time together, they began to notice how naturally their lives were intertwining. Friends and acquaintances commented on how often they were seen together, but neither felt the need to label their relationship yet. They were content with the slow, steady progression of their connection, enjoying each moment as it came. Each shared laugh, supportive gesture, and quiet conversation added layers to their bond, creating a relationship that was both deep and resilient. During a community picnic organized by the town, they found themselves working side by side, coordinating activities for children and elderly residents. They laughed at small mishaps, like spilled drinks or misplaced decorations, and celebrated the successes of the event together. The ease with which they collaborated and the joy they took in each other's company did not go unnoticed by those around them. It was clear to friends and neighbors that their connection was special, even if neither had yet put a name to it. One evening, after a particularly long day volunteering, they walked home together under a sky full of stars. The cool night air was filled with the sounds of crickets and distant laughter from the town square. They talked quietly, reflecting on the day's events and sharing thoughts about life, hopes, and dreams. The young woman felt a warmth in her chest, a growing awareness of how important Alex had become in her life. Alex, in turn, realized that his feelings for her were deepening in ways he had not anticipated. By the end of this period, their friendship had transformed into a relationship that was complex, meaningful, and full of potential. It was not yet defined by romantic labels, but the foundation was solid: trust, understanding, shared experiences, and genuine care. The rescue by the river had been the spark, but it was their continued presence in each other's lives, their shared laughter, support, and moments of vulnerability, that had fanned that spark into a growing flame in the quiet of the night as they each reflected on their days. Both Alex and the young woman felt a sense of anticipation for what was to come. They had discovered that life's ordinary moments could hold extraordinary meaning when shared with someone who truly cared. Their bond had deepened, setting the stage for the next chapter in a story that had begun with a sudden rescue and was now blossoming into a connection neither of them could ignore. Every smile, every touch, and every shared moment added to the growing feeling that something beautiful was unfolding between them. Slowly and naturally, in the rhythm of everyday life, as the days and weeks went by, the connection between Alex and the young woman deepened in ways neither had expected. Their friendship had grown into a relationship filled with subtle affection, trust, and comfort, but both still hesitated to put words to the feelings they were experiencing. It was as if the river that had brought them together continued to flow quietly beneath the surface of their lives, unseen but always present, guiding their interactions and shaping their growing bond. One evening, the young woman faced a difficult moment. A family issue arose that left her feeling stressed and vulnerable. She had never shared such matters openly with many people, but instinctively, she reached out to Alex. When he arrived at her home, he found her sitting by the window, her expression troubled, the faint light of the setting sun casting shadows across her face. Alex sat beside her, careful not to crowd her space, and simply asked if she wanted to talk. The question was simple, yet filled with genuine concern, and she took a deep breath before opening up about the challenges she was facing. Alex listened quietly, his presence steady and reassuring. He did not rush to offer solutions, understanding that sometimes what mattered most was having someone who would simply listen. He offered small words of encouragement and empathy, letting her know she was not alone. The young woman felt an unexpected wave of relief. It was rare to find someone who could understand without judgment and offer support without trying to control the situation. This moment, though filled with emotional tension, became a turning point, showing the depth of care that had developed between them. Over the next few days, Alex continued to check in, sending thoughtful messages and occasionally stopping by to offer small comforts: a cup of tea, a warm blanket, or simply a listening ear. The young woman began to realize just how much he meant to her, not only as a friend, but as someone whose presence brought stability and reassurance. It was in these ordinary, quiet moments that she felt a growing sense of attachment, a bond that was both comforting and exciting. For Alex, these moments of support revealed his own feelings in a new light. He had always cared for her, but seeing her vulnerability and being trusted with her fears made him recognize the depth of his affection. He noticed the way his heart lifted when she smiled, the way he looked forward to their conversations, and the subtle warmth he felt whenever they were near each other. It was no longer just admiration or gratitude. It was something far more personal and profound. One afternoon, as they found themselves walking along the familiar riverbank, the same place where their story had begun. The water flowed gently, reflecting the soft glow of the sun as it filtered through the trees. There was a quiet tension in the air, an unspoken awareness of the feelings that had been growing between them. Neither wanted to rush or risk the delicate balance they had nurtured, but the pull of their emotions was becoming harder to ignore as they paused to watch the water. Alex spoke first, his voice gentle but steady. He admitted that he had been feeling something more than friendship for some time, but had been unsure how to express it. The young woman listened, her heart beating faster, a mixture of relief and anticipation filling her chest. She confessed that she, too, had noticed the growing closeness between them and had been struggling with the same uncertainty. In that moment, the air seemed to shift, and the riverbank, once a place of danger, became a place of understanding and emotional revelation. Their confessions were not dramatic or overly romanticized. They were simple, heartfelt acknowledgments of the emotions that had been quietly growing. They spoke about the importance of trust, honesty, and patience. Realizing that what they had was worth nurturing carefully, the conversation flowed naturally, with laughter, shared memories, and quiet pauses that allowed each to absorb the significance of what had been said in the days that followed. Their relationship began to change subtly but unmistakably. There were small gestures that indicated the new dimension of their bond: a lingering hand on the shoulder, a gentle touch on the arm, the way they would seek each other out in crowds, or share glances that spoke volumes. These gestures, simple as they were, carried meaning and deepened the emotional connection between them. They continued to share daily life and personal stories. But now, there was an added layer of intimacy. They planned small outings together, exploring quiet trails, visiting local markets, and sharing meals at home. Each moment was infused with the awareness of their feelings, making ordinary activities feel extraordinary. The young woman felt a sense of security and warmth she had never experienced before, while Alex felt a quiet joy and fulfillment in being able to care for someone so deeply. One evening, they decided to spend time at a quiet spot near the river, bringing a blanket and a small picnic. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold as the sun began to set, and the water reflected the colors in a shimmering display. They sat close together, sharing food, stories, and laughter, and there was a gentle comfort in simply being near each other. At one point, Alex reached for her hand, and she did not pull away. The touch was tender, a silent affirmation of the feelings they had confessed. It was a moment of connection that spoke louder than words. A simple act that cemented the emotional bond they had nurtured over weeks of shared experiences. Their relationship is now characterized by openness and support, with both feeling safe to express vulnerability, hopes, and dreams. The young woman began to include Alex in her thoughts and plans for the future, seeking his perspective and valuing his input. Alex, in turn, shared his aspirations and challenges, trusting her judgment and cherishing her encouragement. This mutual respect and care created a partnership that was both emotionally rich and grounded in real-life experiences. As the weeks continued, their relationship grew more comfortable and natural. Friends and acquaintances began to notice the subtle changes. The way they looked at each other, laughed together, and supported one another. Yet neither felt the need to rush or label what was unfolding. They were content to let their connection develop at its own pace, knowing that the foundation they had built through shared experiences, trust, and heartfelt confessions was strong and enduring. Through all of this, the river remained a quiet witness to their journey. The place where a moment of danger had sparked the beginning of their connection now symbolized trust, growth, and the gradual unfolding of love. Every visit to the river reminded them of how life could change in an instant, and how moments of vulnerability and care could lead to something meaningful and lasting. By the end of this chapter, Alex and the young woman had taken a significant step in their relationship. They had moved beyond uncertainty, embraced their feelings, and allowed themselves to be open and vulnerable. Their connection was now defined by trust, care, and affection, laying the groundwork for a deeper, more intimate bond. The rescue that had started it all had transformed into something more profound, a love that was rooted in understanding, shared experiences, and the quiet power of emotional honesty. As time passed, the bond between Alex and the young woman continued to grow, evolving naturally into a relationship filled with love, trust, and shared joy. They had moved beyond the uncertainty and hesitations that had marked the earlier stages of their connection. Now, each day together reinforced the depth of their feelings and the sense of completeness they found in one another's presence. Life, with its ordinary routines and occasional surprises, seemed brighter with them together. They shared breakfasts in the small kitchen of her apartment, chatting about plans for the day and small details that often went unnoticed but held significance because they were shared. They walked together through the streets of their town, discovering new corners, enjoying quiet parks, and laughing at little mishaps that occurred along the way. Each shared experience, whether simple or significant, added layers to their relationship, making it more robust and resilient. Their weekends were often filled with small adventures. One morning, they decided to take a short trip to a nearby countryside trail. The air was crisp, and the sound of leaves rustling under their feet created a peaceful rhythm. They walked side by side, sometimes speaking, sometimes simply enjoying the silence that came with being with someone who understood them without words. They discovered wildflowers along the trail and stopped to admire the colors, collecting a few to press into a notebook as a memory of the day. These small, shared moments created a sense of closeness that was both comforting and exhilarating. Through everyday life, they learned the importance of supporting each other's individual goals and dreams. The young woman shared her aspirations about advancing in her career, and Alex encouraged her with unwavering belief in her abilities. He celebrated her successes with genuine pride and offered gentle guidance when challenges arose. In turn, she listened to his stories of personal growth and ambitions, providing reassurance and insight when he needed it most. Their love was not just about romantic gestures, but about being each other's anchor and cheerleader in life's unpredictable journey. One evening, they returned to the river where it all began. Carrying a small blanket and a thermos of tea, the sun was beginning to set, casting an amber glow over the water. They sat together, feet tucked beneath them, sipping tea and talking quietly. The river flowed calmly, a gentle reminder of the moment that had brought them together. They reflected on how that single, unexpected incident had changed both of their lives. And they laughed softly at the memory of fear and relief that had marked the first meeting. It was a moment of gratitude for the twists of fate that had allowed them to find each other. In these reflective moments, they often discussed their hopes for the future. They spoke of travel plans, quiet days together, and the small milestones they wanted to achieve as a couple. There was no rush, only a mutual understanding that life's beauty lay in both shared experiences and the everyday comfort of being present for one another. The young woman admitted that she never imagined a casual walk along the river would lead to such a meaningful connection, and Alex agreed, acknowledging that life sometimes had a way of delivering exactly what one needed when least expected. Their relationship was also strengthened by the small, ordinary acts of care that punctuated their days. Alex would leave a note of encouragement when she had a challenging day at work, and she would surprise him with his favorite snack after a long afternoon of volunteering. These gestures, simple yet thoughtful, reminded them of the love that had quietly grown in the spaces between grand moments. It was in these small details that the true depth of their relationship became apparent. Friends and family began to notice the strength and genuineness of their connection. Those close to them remarked on how naturally they fit together, how comfortable and supportive they were in each other's presence. Their relationship was not flashy or dramatic. It was grounded in reality, built on mutual respect, trust, and the steady flow of shared life experiences. Both Alex and the young woman appreciated this stability, recognizing that their love was not fleeting, but deeply rooted in the reality of everyday life. One weekend, they attended a local festival together, enjoying music, food stalls, and small games. The young woman won a small prize at a ring toss, and Alex cheered for her, teasing her playfully. Later, they shared an ice cream cone, laughing at the misanthropes and the sweetness of the moment. These light-hearted experiences added joy and color to their relationship, reinforcing the sense that love was not only about emotional support, but also about having fun and enjoying life together. As they spent more time together, they also learned to navigate challenges. Minor disagreements arose, as they do in any relationship. They approached them with patience, communication, and understanding. Each challenge became an opportunity to strengthen their bond. Learning more about each other's perspectives and finding ways to compromise and support one another, their love was growing not only through shared happiness but also through the careful handling of obstacles and the willingness to listen and adapt. The river remained a central symbol in their story. They returned to it often, sometimes to walk along the bank, sometimes to sit quietly and reflect. It was a reminder of how their lives had intersected in an unexpected way, of how courage and compassion could create connections that might otherwise have been missed. They often joked about the river being their meeting place, a playful acknowledgement of its role in shaping their journey together as the seasons changed. Their love deepened, becoming a part of the rhythm of daily life. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and personal achievements together, creating a shared history filled with meaningful moments. Their relationship was a blend of excitement and comfort, adventure and routine, laughter and quiet reflection. Each day together reinforced the sense that they had found someone who truly understood and valued them. In quiet moments, they often reflected on how far they had come since that first day by the river. The young woman would recall the fear and relief she felt. Alex would remember the determination and courage it took to reach her. Both acknowledged that the rescue had been more than just a physical act. It had been the spark that led to a profound emotional connection. They felt gratitude for the twists of fate that had brought them together and a deep sense of joy in the life they were now sharing. By the end of this chapter of their lives, Alex and the young woman had built a love that was grounded in reality, nurtured through shared experiences, emotional support, and genuine affection. The rescue that had brought them together had evolved into a lifelong partnership, one characterized by understanding, care, and a quiet, enduring joy. They knew that life would continue to bring challenges and surprises, but they were confident that together they could face whatever came their way. Their story, which began with an act of courage on a riverbank, had grown into a love that was steady, real, and beautifully human. A love that would carry them forward hand in hand, through whatever the future held, even after months of growing closeness and deepening affection. Alex and the young woman found that their journey together continued to reveal new layers of connection and understanding. Life was full of small challenges and discoveries, and they embraced each moment with the same openness and care that had marked the earliest days of their friendship. What had started as a simple rescue had now grown into a relationship that was complex, tender, and deeply fulfilling. One morning, Alex suggested they take a short trip to a quiet town nearby. The young woman agreed eagerly, looking forward to an adventure that promised both exploration and the comfort of being together. They packed a small bag with snacks, water, and a camera to capture moments they wanted to remember. The drive through winding roads and green hills brought laughter and conversation. As they marveled at the scenery and shared stories from their past, the journey itself became a part of their growing narrative, each mile adding to the sense of shared experience and mutual enjoyment. Arriving in the town, they wandered through its quaint streets, exploring little shops and stopping at a bakery where the scent of fresh bread filled the air. They sampled pastries and coffee, taking time to savor both the food and each other's company. They spoke about their favorite memories from past trips, things that made them happy, and little hopes for the future. The The ease with which they shared these thoughts reflected the deep trust and comfort that had become the foundation of their relationship. During their exploration, they discovered a small, secluded garden behind an old building. The garden was overgrown, but beautiful, with wildflowers and vines weaving through old stone structures. They wandered among the plants, laughing as they ducked under branches, and admired the hidden corners. Alex suggested taking a few photos to remember the moment, and the young woman agreed, enjoying the playful spontaneity of the idea. The garden became a private space, a world apart from the rest of the town, where they could simply enjoy being together without interruptions or expectations. As the day turned into evening, they found a bench overlooking a small lake in the town square. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, and the reflection on the water created a serene, almost magical atmosphere. They sat close together, sharing the quiet beauty of the moment. Neither spoke for several minutes, content to simply be in each other's presence. Then softly, the young woman spoke about how her life had changed since meeting Alex. How the rescue had been more than just an incident, it had been the beginning of a journey that had brought her joy, comfort, and love. Alex listened, touched, and shared his own reflections, acknowledging the ways her presence had enriched his life. Their words were simple, honest, and heartfelt, expressing feelings that had grown naturally over time after their visit to the lake. They returned to the town center to watch a small street performance. Musicians played gentle melodies, and children danced around, filling the square with laughter. Alex and the young woman held hands, feeling the warmth and reassurance of their connection. The simplicity of the moment, the shared appreciation of music and community, highlighted the joy of being together. They realized that their relationship was not built on grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but on the consistent, caring presence they offered each other. The evening ended with a quiet walk back to the car, the streets now illuminated by soft, warm lights. They spoke about the day's experiences, recalling funny moments and little discoveries. The young woman felt a growing sense of contentment, a deep understanding that the love they shared was both real and enduring. Alex felt a similar sense of fulfillment, recognizing that their bond was strengthened by the combination of adventure, trust, and everyday life. Back in their town, life continued to move at its usual pace. But the richness of their shared experiences had added depth and vibrancy to their relationship. They continued to support each other in practical ways, helping with errands, sharing responsibilities, and offering encouragement during stressful days. These acts of care, though ordinary, reinforced the sense of partnership that had become central to their lives. They were no longer just two people who had met by chance. They were companions in every sense. Navigating the complexities of life together, they also discovered new dimensions of emotional intimacy. Conversations became more layered, exploring personal values, hopes for the future, and reflections on past experiences. They shared fears and uncertainties, offering reassurance and perspective to each other. The trust between them allowed for openness without fear, and creating a space where vulnerability was met with understanding rather than judgment. This deepened their connection, fostering a sense of emotional security that was both comforting and empowering. On weekends, they often revisited familiar spots around the river and town, but with a sense of renewed appreciation. Each visit brought new memories and strengthened the feeling of continuity in their relationship. They celebrated small achievements, like completing projects at work or helping friends, and recognized the importance of acknowledging these moments together. The consistency of their support and shared joy created a rhythm that made life feel fuller and more meaningful. One particularly memorable weekend, they attended a local festival that celebrated the town's history and culture. They wandered through booths of crafts, tasted traditional foods, and listened to local musicians perform. They laughed at the antics of street performers and played simple games that brought out a playful side in both of them. The young woman won a small prize, and Alex cheered for her, teasing and celebrating with genuine delight. Moments like these, seemingly small, became markers of their shared happiness and the deepening of their bond. Their relationship was not without challenges, of course. Minor disagreements arose, as they do in any partnership. However, The foundation of trust and respect they had built allowed them to navigate these moments constructively. They learned to communicate openly, to listen without interruption, and to find solutions together. These experiences strengthened their bond, reinforcing the sense that they could face difficulties together and emerge stronger, even during quiet. Everyday moments, the depth of their connection was evident. Whether sharing a meal, working on personal projects side by side, or simply sitting in comfortable silence, they found joy in the ordinary. They understood that love was not only about dramatic events or milestones, but also about the consistent presence, care, and shared understanding that enriched daily life. The river remained a constant symbol in their story, a reminder of how their lives had intersected and the journey they had undertaken together. Occasionally, they would visit the riverbank, sit by the water, and reflect on the path that had brought them here. They laughed at the memory of that first day, acknowledging the fear and relief, and marveled at how a single moment had led to such a profound connection. The river, once a place of danger, had become a place of reflection, gratitude, and celebration of their love.